So my dad, it was all about him, right? As I was growing up, my dad was, he worked at this country club. We owned our own business too. My mom and dad only had a restaurant. But my dad worked at this prestigious country club in Birmingham, Alabama. And he would have these youngsters come in and he would like give them jobs. He ain't had a job. They was 18. They didn't go to college or something. He would put them to work with him. And then we have some of these kids stay with us, right? And so when we stayed with me and my brother, we were like, people thought they were my brothers. I didn't tell them any different either. So, but they lived with, he put them up for a while. And he just helped them. That's the way he always was. He just helped people all the time. So he was raised in Birmingham. He was the youngest. And the thing about it that I researched a little later with my dad, right? So he dropped out of school and he was a junior in high school. And he went to work. He served in the Army, military. He felt like he had to work. I think both his parents had passed away and he was in high school. So he was the youngest kind of on his own. So he went to work. And his sister, one of his older sisters, she had an older son. Now, he was a teenager at that time. My dad was barely older than him. And he took him in. Him and my mom took him in, right? And that became like, they thought that was my brother as well, but he was my first cousin. He lived with us all that time. So my dad, that's what kind of guy he was. He just take people in and, say, you need some help? Come on, I'm gonna help you. So that was always me. That was always in my fiber, always trying to help folks. My mom used to tell me all the time, though, growing up, so you trust too many people like your dad, and you'll get hurt. And I have, right? And I learned from that. But he was a trusting guy with kids, always tried to help, a hard worker. You couldn't sit around the house and don't do nothing when you're off. You got to go to work. You better go do something, cut grass, you better do something. And he was all about that, and he was all about going to school. He was all about educating, right? And even though he dropped out, he felt like he had to do it because of, I got to work. I don't have any other income, so I got to take care of these folks, even though his nephew was almost his age that he wanted to take care of. He wanted to take care of him. That's where he was. So that inspired me as I got older, right? Even as I got older. When he passed away, I'm like, oh man, he passed away at a young age, right? He passed away at 58 years old. So I'm like, then when we had the funeral for him, I saw all these young people come to the funeral. I was just looking around. He was 18, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds. That's how many people he affected. I just seeing how, and the church was so full, they almost had to have two services, but we didn't. They was outside, they were wrapped around the church. But it was all the people who went to school with him, but it was mostly all these young people. And I just noticed that. And I noticed some people who used to live with us, like, man, that's so-and-so. I hadn't seen them in a while. And but that was the impact I felt when we was at his funeral, right? I said, man, he affected a lot. And everybody was coming to us, all kind of stuff he used to do that I didn't know anything about. Because he wasn't that kind of guy that brag about it, right? Now, he was the life of the party. When you have a party, the life of it, and man, wanted to have fun, pick everybody up. But he had a genuine heart. And I think that's where I got that from, naturally, from him. So when we started all this stuff, it was all about, by that third or fourth year, I said, man, I need to do something to honor him. And that gave me the motivation to go ahead and pick this thing back up. Then my mom always supported that idea. She and my aunts would come down for the tournament. Then when the casinos came, they would go to casinos and they'd come back and see what I'm doing. So a lot of them players knew my mom, right, when she came down. And so she supported me that way, right? She wanted to keep my dad's name going, so she said, keep going with that. And so there was always that supportive group of my mom and dad. They always was there. And then when I got married, my in-laws were the same way. They always, anything we ever had, they would show up. I don't care what it was. I don't care if we just had we're just going to go out here and have a little speech, have a few kids out here at the park. They would show up at the park, just to support, right? So yeah, but my dad was that kind of guy who was a hard worker, always helped kids, always helped people who need. That's just the way he was. He was strict now on us, As far as, I remember I go to bed with them dishes not washed. I knew what was coming. So even to this day, I tell Mikey, you better wash them dishes. They'll tell you that too before you go to bed. Because that's just the way he was. Then he'll joke with you all the time, laugh and joke. But he always helped people. But he had that kind spirit. And he always helped, especially young folks, always helped them. So that was the motivation. I took it on to Lake Charles with me,